So sometimes a blog can be capable, and sometimes not. But I will definitely, back Mal up on, if you haven't written a blog post in like 3 years, you should reconsider what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. An option, actually, a way to deal with that, not to segue too far, is to actually, like you're talking about having the information about like being a police person, having particular knowledge, is just to have a page about that.
Yeah.
Like some sort of like built into the About Me section, or maybe like a resources section. That I wouldn't use the word resources, obviously, but and you can just like sort of put that content on your website and not have to like make it something that has a date that implies you're going to write more.
This could even be the kind of material that you give away to subscribers. It's yet another way to get people onto your list.
Totally. It is. Totally. All right. Comparing the website platforms. I get this a lot. People say, how should I get started? I signed up for Wix. I'm on WordPress. I use this. I use that. I think there are pros and cons of each platform, and each of us work primarily in different platforms, but we've at least kind of touched all the platforms a little bit. And so I feel like this is one of those things. Do we want to just take questions on this one, or do we want to just talk about it?
Do people have questions about the different platforms? Like you've used WordPress or used Wix or Square or anything?
Does anybody have a question about them specifically, or we'll just talk in general? Yeah. Which one do we each use? I build solely, not even primarily, I build solely in WordPress. All my sites are WordPress based. And so that's what I use. I've dabbled with the others, but I don't know them as well, and I've been doing WordPress since 2009, and I'm kind of like, that's what I do.
I build all of mine in Wix. I used to use Drupal a lot, which is like a much more complex version of WordPress that doesn't have a learning curve, it has a learning cliff. But I built my first author website in that, but I just got tired of maintaining it. So I tried out Wix ages ago, and it was terrible. And I tried it again recently, and it was so easy to build websites that I decided to build mine in it. And I didn't mean to start a business doing this, but then people saw my website, wanted ones like it. So that's where I build everything now, is in Wix.
Yeah, so I've used both Wix and WordPress, and for different uses, they're great. But at SideArcade, we built our own platform. So from the ground up, it's built for authors. It's a beast in itself. It's geared around being automated, so it pulls in your data from Amazon, and it keeps your website up to date with anything that you do outside.
I think in terms of pros and I don't know if we want to do pros. I mean, there's a little bit. I can tell you why I chose what I chose and why I continue to use it, and I think the others can probably do that, and I'll tell you some of the pitfalls of it too. Okay, so I built in WordPress, one, because of just familiarity was definitely a big one for me, but when it came down to pure mechanics, I found that WordPress was very easily able to move content. So I could make content once and then feature it all over the place without having to recreate it. I could just call for it page to page. And so I actually developed a lot more special tools to do that specifically for books in Modfarm. And since I know how to develop with WordPress, it was just that's what I kept developing it. I found that it's good. I think it's user-friendly, but it's sort of like a Mac PC thing, like some people think one thing's user-friendly, other people think another thing's user-friendly. I think it's pretty user-friendly, but other people think other things are. I think it's a little bit of personal preference. For me, I work in it because I'm able to control many more aspects of the content primarily, and I'm also able to kind of quickly host it and deal with it, and I know how to secure it and all that stuff. But there's definitely some pitfalls to it, which is if you don't know how to do those things, you probably should. Most people think that when they sign up for something that it is secure, for example. It's not. Just because it has an HTTPS on it doesn't mean that it hasn't been protected against hackers. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have, cross-content attacks. It doesn't mean that the other aspects have been secured or nailed down. And you have to invest in that platform in order to get those capabilities. There are some other things about SEO, search engine optimization. They're not native. You have to bring in that capability. There's a lot of things about WordPress that gives you a tremendous amount of power, which it does, but with that power, you have to know how to enable it. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of fall short with WordPress development, is that they make a pretty website and then the back end of the inside of it doesn't have everything it needs.
So would you say that WordPress is for people who are more technically savvy?
I think,
If not if they're going with the service.
to be honest, I think that any website requires an amount of education, and it doesn't matter which platform you use, because some platforms will provide, say, security or SEO like Wix does, but you still need to know how to set them up and activate them. You just don't have to find something to add to it. It's still there, but you still need to actually go and do something.
Yeah.
It's not automatic. None of it is automatic. And so I think there's a little bit of education that comes with each platform. So it's hard to say whether one's more technical than the other, but each one has its idiosyncrasies. And I think a lot of people, when they're doing website design, they stop at the design, like they make the page kind of look pretty and say, this is good for me, but then there's a whole lot of other stuff that's not getting done. And so there's a little bit of that. And I think we're going to talk about some of that later too,
Yeah.
but that's my perspective on it. How about you? Why'd you choose Wix, and what do you like and not like about it?
So I think the thing that, WordPress and any sort of CMS system like that, like a modular CMS system, they require you to understand that at some level the underpinnings, like how do plugins work, how do you update plugins, what version of WordPress they require. If you update WordPress, you have to update the plugins. And some of that can be managed for you. Like if you host, I'm assuming you probably offer it as a service where you manage all that for
standard
people.
for us.
Or if you host with WordPress.com, they will actually do a lot of that for you. And so will some other hosts, and some don't really, they say they do and they also don't really do it for you as well. So you have to have a bit of your own understanding. The nice thing about something like WordPress though is like, because there's like 100,000, or
It's huge.
actually it's probably way more than that, it's probably millions of plugins at this point. That if you
It's
want
a lot.
to integrate with any particular thing, chances are there's already code to do it, and it's not super hard to pull that off. And I know how to do all of that. I've built something like 5,000 websites. It's an unbelievably stupid number of websites that I built. And I kind of got tired of doing all of that. I actually took 5 years off from making websites at all because I just can't see code ever again. But I got the itch and I started doing it. And one of the reasons why I went with Wix is because I just wanted to focus purely on the user experience and not to spend a lot of time worrying about the back end. And because Wix is a platform, they manage all of the updates behind the scenes. When they run updates, your website works before and after. They handle all of the security, and you have to trust that they, of course, are handling all of the security well. But because they're a fairly well-known company, if they don't, they're going to get crapped on in the news and stuff like that. So they have to be at least somewhat good about it. The difficult thing is, so because Wix is a platform, it offers like a set of features. And if you want more features, you have to engage in highly custom development, which I can do, and a lot of other people can do, but it becomes more expensive than something like WordPress because there's no sort of pre-made thing. You have to have it made from scratch. So like the bonus is that if you're building something that sort of fits within the package, it works very well. But if you want to move outside the package, then it starts to become a lot more complicated. But I think the thing that I really like about Wix, and this was my biggest selling point, is they have the most ridiculously inexpensive newsletter system that I've ever encountered. We were on MailChimp paying $300 a month for 20,000 people, and Wix is $50 a month for 250,000 people on your list. And because it directly integrates with your website, you put a form on your website, like you drag a form from things, stick it on your website, theme it the way you want, and you say, add these people, add the button to have them become a subscriber, and they're on your list. And you don't have to make sure that they import to the other thing and all of that jazz. So I really like that a lot. And that allows you to do a lot of sort of like custom flows. The downside, I think if there is like a major downside to Wix, is that even though it's like a drag and drop website building system, it has idiosyncrasies. It's like you have to understand, like if I do this thing, it's going to look like crap, even if it looks good on the screen, right? When people actually go to use it, it's going to look terrible. And you also have to like redo it. You have to do your website both mobile and desktop. You click this little toggle and you see it mobile, and you have to rearrange things to make it look proper, look good in mobile. Whereas like a good, using something like do people still use Bootcamp?
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's
I don't. but
no, like a good
somebody
a
does.
Bootcamp based theme or something like that, and like WordPress will sort of almost automatically look
Mine will
good.
do it all automatically.
Yeah, so that's sort of an added bonus. Like anything, there's pluses and minuses, but The biggest thing I liked about Wix is that I didn't have to worry about the back end at all.
Yeah. So for SideArcade, it really is all automated. So you paste in your Amazon author profile URL, and immediately pulls the data in,
Yeah.
and it stays up to date all the time. So we automatically handle search engine optimization. When it comes to theming your website, we give you great tools like a color palette generator. So we give you, palette after palette that you know is going to work well with your book covers and your brand color. I would say that, just to be fair, look, I love our platform. We've been working on it for 2 years now. But I will say that we have some downsides too, right? Our biggest downside is that we are not nearly as customizable as either WordPress or Wix, right? Because with WordPress or Wix, you can bring in other plugins and you could change, you could completely swap out your themes and stuff like that. And with Wix, you're building each part of your page individually. Now, we try to make it so that, let's be real. If you look at author websites, they're all structured the exact same way, right? So nobody's going to go out there and going to reinvent what an author website is. So what we aim to do is we aim to produce the most optimized websites possible that specifically are geared towards, expressing your brand, right? We try to optimize everything around that. So downside, though, the downside is that we're in beta right now. We're only launching our first version in January. So the one thing the one big downside with us is that we're still building out features, right? So it's going to take us some time to maybe get the features that you're looking for, depending on where you are in your career.
Okay. So we're 20 minutes in, so we're gonna have to. Okay, what you
We
need?
talk a lot. Oops.
I think we're hitting on this, but I think we'll hit it, and then we're going to try and catch up a little bit because I think we're losing time. All right, so I'm going to start this one because why not?
Yeah,
All right, so what you need in your website. The way that, what we've seen is the number one is your books. Your books is the most seen piece of content on your website that I've seen, period. And every site I manage, it is overwhelmingly, like 80%, the most seen piece of content. Okay, secondary to that is a newsletter. It's just so vitally important. And I've been telling people that I swung by the booth today, on Monday, and I'll reiterate it here. It's really important to have the newsletter sign up be actually a part of your website. Because when you sign up for like MailChimp or any of the commercial ones, they will give you the option to have a free page. They'll be like, oh, have our free designer landing page. Never take the free designing landing page, okay? It doesn't matter how good it looks, and some of them look beautiful. Never take that page, because the problem is that they will give you a unique link to that page, because they have to. That link is not your link. That link is not on your website. eepearl472.com is never going to show up on your website. So as you build your books out and you do what many in the 20Books universe, kind of informational collective tell you to do, which is, and I'm going to tell you to do, is put the link to your newsletter sign-up page and your back matter or your front matter or both in your book. If that link is, mydomain.com/readers, then it will never change. And if you change newsletter providers, it doesn't matter. You just change what's on that page. You change the form, you change the web snippet, you change the whatever. That link will always be yourdomain.com/readers or /newsletter or /VIP or /whatever you want to use. And that way you have freedom and choice in the future. If you put all the back matter of eepearl476.com, you are now going to use MailerLite or MailChimp or whatever for the rest of your career. Unless you decide to go back and change all of your back matter and go through that difficulty. And a lot of people don't. It's like, oh, it's too much trouble. But then you're hashed, and you won't be able to take advantage when you beat that free tier. After you do the happy dance of I beat that free tier, when you get your first bill, you'll say, man, I missed that free tier. And you won't be able to take advantage of things like Wix's service or Modfarm service. We provide one for when people outgrow the free tier. Or if SideArcade develops one, or if you just go to SendFox or some other thing that's cheaper than the one you originally signed up for, if you have that link on your site, you have the power to do something about it. If you use theirs, then you don't. Or it's just much more difficult. So that, I think, are the two things. The newsletter sign-up should be on your site. Books should be on your site. If you want to include an about page and all the rest, great. But definitely have those two things. You guys, any different?
Pretty much that, actually, yeah. I guess I would add that I think that a good website needs, you need to like conform to the standards of how people expect information to be shown on a website, but you also need to stand out. And I think that you need to, like one of the things I do is I build highly graphical websites that have like a lot of background images and stuff like that. And I believe pretty strongly in like making sure that like every page sort of emblazons your brand and makes it clear that when someone lands on your page, like your tropes even are visible. Like this is an urban fantasy. I see castles, I see, or that wouldn't be urban fantasy, but I see things on the screen all around that really match the brand that this author has. That way you're guiding the right people to keep investing in your site. Whereas if they come to like a purely white page with just your name, maybe they land on your about page or something like that. It's just white with your name and then some text. There's no genre signaling. There's no age group signaling. There's nothing like that. So I think it's important to have it everywhere.
Okay, we're burning time.
Okay.
Okay, what readers are looking for? We get this question a lot, and this kind of carries into what should be in your site. And I noticed that both of us talked about the content of your site. We didn't talk about like security, SEO, analytics, all that stuff. So there is a back end of your site where you want to have those systems to be able to, to be able to control how a site is shared, to control what it looks like when you're in search, to be able to rank in search, to have security capability. All those things are back end systems, and it's important not to forget about that. All right, this is a data graph from our 2020 data at Modfarm of where people went on all the sites that we managed. And you can see book pages, that big red chunk was huge. The homepage is huge. And then the kind of blog about newsletter sort of gets crunched in there. And that I will tell you that after several years of doing this, homepage and book pages, those percentages stay pretty constant. But that other quarter there, that the newsletter about and blog pages really, there's a lot of drifting each year to year about how much they go. I think that this year's blog percentage was increased because we had a nonprofit have a bunch of top tier historical authors live blog novels. So we had like 12 like top level novels being posted every day, and people came to read them. So that might have changed our blog percentage a little bit for the year, but that's basically what I've seen mostly. What you guys see anything different, or what they're coming to? Anything in particular that you've found that readers have wanted to see in your sites or on the sites you've built?
I think it's pretty much those things, but I do feel like readers, like I said, they also want additional content if they can. If you can like give them bonus stuff, like I do a lot of sites for sci-fi authors, and you get like the maps in there and stuff like that, and like even like character art and whatnot. You won't drive people onto those as much, but you'll keep people on the site longer, going through more pages that way.
I will say that character art for some of the bigger authors I've had with more popular series, when fan art shows up, they post it on the site, and that does get viewed. That definitely does. And reading order, if you have like a complex world or a bunch of stuff, man, reading order gets hit a lot.
Mel mentioned listing content in multiple places across your site. This is a perfect reason why. If you've got free content that's related to multiple books or multiple series, you want to include it on all of those book pages, right? Make it easy for a person to crawl the little web that is your site, right? Get them, in fact, find ways to encourage them to keep exploring your site.
Leveraging SEO and social. I don't know if we want to get into that.
We better just...
Yeah,
we're going to skip this one for time. If you're interested in SEO or social integration or what that even means, hit us up after, because we could talk for hours on that. We don't have time for that. All right, designing for multiple devices. Okay, this is a site I did for Chris Kennedy. You can see the difference in them, but on each side, each device, everything is very clear, is very accessible. You know exactly what you're getting, and it's visually there. So it's 60% of people that come to the sites I manage on average are on a phone. Maybe another 10% on a tablet, 30 to 40% on a desktop. So you've got to look good on all the stuff.
So it's worth mentioning that if you go with a service like SideArcade or Modfarms, you get this optimization out of the box. But if you're building a website on your own in WordPress or on Wix or on any of the platforms, this is something that you have to take care of yourself. Oh, I'm sorry. Or obviously, if Mal builds your website, I'm sure she also takes care of.
She'll take care of it.
I'm so sorry.
So I'll do it. But like Mal said, if you use Wix or Squarespace, especially those drag and drop builders, they do have a mobile version that you have to touch up, and it will not look the same out of the box.
Nope.
All right, branding. Okay, well, hey, we're down to 9.5 minutes. Well, shoot, I thought you were going to come up and say we had like 2 minutes left. I was like, yeah.
Does that have to include questions?
Yeah,
Do you
that's
think
all we get.
You want to do questions then? See if they.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, let's
All right,
hit
let's
out.
do some questions then.
Yeah. Let's see what we got. We'll hit what we got. We're just gonna go.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So the first one is about the newsletters.
Uh-huh.
How often do you send them to your readers? Is it like once a month, like bi-monthly, or yeah?
It depends on the relationship that you want to build with your readers. Once a week, if you have the content for it, I think is ideal. Only if you have the content for it, though, right? You have to be thinking about what is it that your readers want to hear from you every week. You know, so like it could be that you have interesting updates about your process that your readers are interested in. It could be that you're giving them clippings, excerpts from what you're writing at the time. It could be that you're writing in character voice. I know that Jamie Davis is doing this now and having success with it. So you just want to make sure that when you email people, you have something, you're giving them a reason to open that email. If you're just training them that your emails are filled with nothing, then don't email them. Just wait until you have something.
I'd second that.
I would also add consistently. So like don't do it like 4 times in 1 month and then wait 3 months and do it again kind of thing. Like have a consistent pace so they kind of know like, hey, it's like this regular update I'm getting from this author.
Okay.
So,
From my thing, it definitely depends. Each person, I have a number of authors. We manage a number of newsletters for them. Chris Kennedy sends an email out every Monday morning at 9 a.m. And if it doesn't go out at 9 a.m., he is calling me at 9:01 saying, what the hell happened? So that goes out every morning at 9, and he has a pretty comprehensive set plan. Craig Martelle sends something out every other day, sometimes even every day. He's constant. He's always communicating. Okay. And I have some trade pub authors that will really let their email system kind of subside, but they know when their book is going to be released. So about 6 months before the release date is, they kind of have a marketing plan they go with, and they kind of kick that into gear. So that might be, you know, they'll send out a cover release or, hey, I got a blurb release, and then they'll kind of walk it in, and it gets a little more intense as they get closer to actual, you know, release day. So it really, I think it just really depends.
Okay. All right, the second question I have is for Mal. It's about Wix. So I use Weebly myself, and the sales functionality on it really sucks, to be honest. So what is it like on Wix? Is it pretty easy? Well, first of all, I guess, do you sell products or, I don't know, anything really on Wix? And if you do, then what is your experience with that?
yeah, I sell swag, or not swag, but like merch and books on my site. Wix can automatically plug into things like Printful, so you can like go to printful.com, make a whole bunch of t-shirts and coffee cups and stuff like that, and then connect Wix and Printful, and just automatically shows up on your website. And then they can actually do direct credit card processing for you if you have like an actual incorporated business, like or an LLC, and you can also connect it to PayPal and stuff like that. So it's a pretty good system, and they even connect with like USPS for tracking rates and stuff like that. It's not super customizable. It's like, here's the e-commerce in a box, and if it works, great, and if you don't like it, also great.
And does it make it easy for the buyer? Because one thing that I've hated about Weebly is they add all these like unnecessary roadblocks. Like I remember I was trying to sell some kind of an ebook, and the customer was complaining to me like, why do I need to have my physical address? You know,
It's very much. It's basically like Square. So if you've ever bought anything on a Square website or a Shopify website,
Yeah.
it's pretty much just like that. So it's pretty slick.
Pretty easy for
Yeah.
the buyer. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
I think she's been waiting.
The
there, so-
lady in the chair actually on the scooter was next,
Okay.
or not?
Oh, no, straight back, her.
Yeah. Sorry.
I purchased a Divi and then the child theme,
Uh-huh.
and one of the problems I ran into is like it has like a flip book in it,
Uh-huh.
and the JavaScript that they have running it is incorrect. It's like they've got hard-coded stuff in there,
Then
and
call
I need
Divi
to
and
have
complain.
it fixed.
Yeah.
So where do you find somebody that can go in and just fix it? They don't have to rewrite everything. Just go to those spots that they hard-coded things and take it out.
That's kind of the good and bad about WordPress, is that people provide plugin services. All of them are third party. And if you asked me to rewrite Divi, I would probably tell you no.
Oh, no, it's not Divi.
you know,
It's the child, and they've got us.
If it's a child theme, then sometimes you can mess with that. It depends on but you would want to call the person you bought that child theme from and report it as a bug and say, hey, you have this bug, you need to fix it. And if they don't, then that's one of those things where you can hire a designer to fix it for you, or you can just get another child theme, which would probably be way simpler and cheaper.
I had a hard time finding an author child theme that had the
Well,
features that I
it's
wanted
tough.
at that time.
I generally have I mean, we kind of designed a whole system, for that specifically. But yeah, I share your pain. A lot of people are branded as author things, but they aren't made by authors. They aren't made by people that service authors. It was just sort of a brand thing to say, oh, look, I've configured my child thing for authors. You should buy it. So that's another one of the downsides of systems like WordPress, but also all the systems, because a lot of them do that. And that it's a little bit of buyer's beware. You kind of got to be a little more careful about what you kind of go for.
With
Right, so-
oh, sorry.
I was just going to grab to another question.
Okay,
go for it.
okay. With WordPress themes, I strongly recommend you don't use the page builder style themes like Divi. Instead,
Yeah.
just go to Envato Marketplace and find a theme that specifically looks like the thing that you want it to be, and buy that theme, because it's much less likely to break. There's too many moving parts in those page builder themes.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them. All right, who's next? I think this lady was patient, but then we have two over there, and don't worry, we're not going to forget you.
So next year, I'm really going to be focusing on bringing in audiobook listeners, readers, however you want to categorize them. Do you have any insight to how I would create a pleasing and productive web experience for people who are audiobook listeners? And have you ever considered trying to get audiobook people, because in an ebook, they can just hit a link and get to you. How do you get somebody from an audiobook to your website? Smart speaker, quick links, is that something you've considered? Any insights on that?
I know how to design the pages, but I don't know anything about how to mobilate somebody from an audiobook.
My one suggestion there, if you want to get somebody who's listening to take some action in the world, make sure that the URL that you give them is short enough that they could hear it, understand it, and type it in. So, consider a shorter version of your domain name that just automatically redirects. So, something that's just a few letters long. That way, it's easy to say at the end of your book.
You pretty much have to say it.
Yeah, you have to say it. Thank you. I found that audio is a huge component of most of the authors that I service, and so we've kind of integrated audio into the page. Most of the websites now, and I'm sure that yours do the same, ours, WordPress certainly does, is if you embed an audio file into it, it automatically kind of pulls up a player. So if you can get a sample of the books and put that onto your book page, I found that to be helpful. Also, a distinct button that says if it's not if you're wide or whatever, you'll want to say, hey, it's available here. And definitely show where it's available. Unlike ebooks, Amazon is rarely exclusive for audiobooks. So you can be on Audible and they'll let you still be on iTunes and Google Play or whatever. I found that the big two that I've seen on my sites, and that doesn't mean that it's indicative of every author, just so far the authors that I got, Audible and iTunes are the big ones. and it's not as much Audible as you think. It's not universally Audible. There's a lot of iTunes users out there, and if the link exists, they'll click on it. But generally, like I said before, you have to have information and you have to have directions. So have a sample and have a button to buy it. That's the best advice I can give. Yes.
Okay, so
we're out of time.
Oh,
Mike-
we are out of time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're going to do one more.
okay,
Right.
quickly, you said you should obviously have your books on your website. Is that just one page like a bibliography or a separate page for each book? And if so, what should it have on it?
So the first thing that you want to make sure when you're setting up a website is if you've only got a few books, just set up your homepage, because that's what's going to do the converting to your list. But then the next thing that you're going to want to build is your library page, where you can organize your books in series and in reading order, and from there build out your book landing pages, because with those pages you can start driving traffic through them and convincing readers to buy before they land on Amazon's page. Because once they get to Amazon, they're likely to get distracted unless you're a one-click buy.
Yeah, you definitely want to make it so that you want every book has a dedicated page, like you said, so you can drive people right to that page. So yeah, so like your latest book should be on your homepage. There should be a listing of some sort and a standard page. I think all of our platforms, you only have to add the book once
Yeah.
in one spot, and then it appears in all the places. So you don't have to manually go and like physically be putting all this information on all these different pages. They get automatically built.
So, long story short, or to sum up, definitely. And like we said earlier, you want those books in all over the place. Like I said, on Modfarm, it's not unusual for a book to be 5, 6, 7 different places. Because like we said, once you've entered it, it can be manipulated. And it'll just shotgun out to all the places it needs to be.
So those would be like pages on WordPress.
Yes.
That's right.
No.
Yes, they would be pages.
oh.
Or a custom post type, depending on what you're using. But yeah, it would be discrete pages.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
One more.
So this is where to find us. If everyone wants to kind of know where to find each one of us.
Hang around outside and ask us questions if you've got
Yes.
them. And tomorrow, if you want more information on websites, I'm giving a talk at 9:30 in this room. I go through what each page should look like, block by block.
And are you going to be here on Friday for Industry Day?
Yes.
Okay. Both Mike and I will do an Industry Day. They're going to do Industry Day Part 2 on Friday because we realized that the first Industry Day was a little overwhelming. So this should be a little lower key. So I think they're going to be doing author signing on kind of one side of the hall and Industry Day on the other. We'll be there again, so it should be a little lower key than it was on Monday. Maybe more chance to answer questions and talk. So if you're here on Friday, swing by.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You guys did great. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm halfway through everything I got to do now.
Yeah. Are you? How long are you here for?
I'm here till Sunday, actually.
Oh wow, that's a romp.
I always need a recharge day before I go home because